Hi everyone, welcome to Cooking with Al. Today I'm going to show you how to make my 1 bowl super fudgy macadamia nut brownie. It's getting close to Easter, so I want you to have an excellent brownie recipe to put on your Easter table or just to munch on at Easter time. I'm actually going to do a bit of an experiment today, so I'm actually going to put 2 recipes up. One is for the macadamia nut brownie, but I'm also going to show you how to make a Nutella brownie. So in order to prepare for the Nutella brownie, I've just opened a jar of Nutella. You can use a vegan hazelnut spread or any other hazelnut spread. And I'm going to put teaspoon dollops into this lined baking tray, and then I'm going to put it in the freezer. And when I have made the batter for the brownie, I'm going to take this baking tray out, and I'm going to pop the frozen dollops of Nutella on top of half of the brownie at the bottom, and then put the remainder of the batter on top. Now, I'm even going to be more tricky today in that I'm going to do, when I actually make it with you in a little while, I'm going to do half of it macadamia nut, and I'm going to do half of it with the frozen Nutella. So I think 6, I'm going to do 7, why not? So 7 dollops, which is probably about 1/3 of the container. I have a 400 gram container here. So that's what it's turned out like. I've got 7 dollops there. And when it cooks, even though it'll be frozen to start off with when I put it on the batter, when it cooks, it'll melt and soften. And then when you go to eat it, it'll be even more delicious. Anyway, I'll see you back here when this is frozen and we're ready to start making our brownie. Okay, so here we are back. My Nutella is now ready to go, so I'm ready to start making the actual brownie. This is a 1 saucepan brownie. I make the whole thing in the saucepan, and I use a whole block of old gold chocolate. I just find that gives the best taste, but you can use whichever dark chocolate you like. And then we have other ingredients. We've got flour, macadamia nuts, which I'm going to toast in the oven. I've got the oven preheated at 180. Some dark chocolate chips in addition to the dark chocolate, eggs, butter, vanilla. And as I said, I've already prepped the Nutella. So we're going to go in. First step is to melt the butter and the dark chocolate. So we'll go to the stovetop. So I've got my butter, 250 grams, melting on the stovetop. Once that's melted and created a layer down the bottom of the saucepan, I've crushed up my chocolate in the packet, and then I'm going to tip the whole block of chocolate into the saucepan. Okay, so I've measured out my macadamia nuts. I've only measured out half of the quantity, 50 grams here, because I'm going to do half macadamia nut brownie and a half Nutella brownie. But the recipe calls for 100 grams of macadamia nuts. I use these ones that are already hard. You buy them from Woolies. And I'm just going to pop them in the preheating oven, and they take no time at all. Keep an eye on them because they do brown quite quickly. Okay, so now that my butter's started to melt or is melting, I'm going to open my packet of chocolate and I'll pop that in. And then just give it a stir around. So I have my stovetop burner on the lowest possible, because you actually don't want to make the butter and the chocolate mixture very hot. Because the next step is to add the sugar, and then you're going to add the eggs, and you don't want to cook the eggs. So once this big chunk of butter has melted, and just a little bit more, I'm actually going to turn off the heat and allow the residual heat in the already melted butter and chocolate just to cook the rest of the chocolate and the butter that hasn't. And it doesn't take very long, it just takes a little bit of stirring around. So I've just turned off the heat, and as you can see, there's still a couple of chunks of butter and a little chunk of chocolate, and the residual heat will just melt that down. So just keep stirring. All right, now I'm going to add 1.5 cups of brown sugar, just loosely packed. So that's 1 cup and 1/2 cup. Use the same spoon or the spatula to mix the sugar in. Add a little bit of vanilla and then leave it to sit. So I've just taken my macadamia nuts out of the oven. They took less than 5 minutes to brown up, and that's the perfect brownness that you want to get them to. So I'll just put that aside. All right, so now we can add the eggs into the cooled mixture, one at a time. And use a balloon whisk to mix it in. Use the eggshell. Look at that. Bit of eggshell that fell in. And last egg. Now that the eggs have been mixed in, I'm going to add the flour. 1 cup of flour. I'll move back to using the spatula. Dump in 1 cup of flour and the chocolate chips. All right, if you were making just a macadamia nut brownie and not the 50/50 like I'm doing today, then you would add the macadamias at this point as well. So I'm going to move the macadamias into my little spoon dish because I'm actually going to cook the brownie in this pan. Okay, so give this a good stir so all the flour is stirred in. All right, there's little chunks of the chopped chips. All right, so we need to move fast. That's a hot pan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put half the mixture at the bottom. Spread it out to the edges, to the corners. All right, I'll put half of my macadamia nuts on one half of the brownie. And on the other half, I'm just going to grab the Nutella. So here are my frozen Nutella pieces from the freezer, straight from the freezer. I'm just going to put them in here. The other half. Squeeze that one down there. And then I'm going to pour the rest of the brownie mixture on top. This little, yeah. Oh, doesn't want to stay up. Around. There we go. So that is my half macadamia nut, half Nutella brownie. Wouldn't normally do this. I'm only doing this to experiment with the Nutella bit. But the recipe I have will be either a full macadamia nut brownie or a full Nutella brownie. All right, let's get this straight into the oven. All right, so that's going to be in the oven for about 40 minutes. You don't want to cook a brownie till it's hard in the oven. Otherwise you'll break your teeth eating it. So you want to cook it till it's set and wobbly, and it'll continue to firm up once it's out of the oven. So that should I'm going to check it at 30 minutes, but it should cook for around between 35 and 40 minutes. Just depends on your oven and where you sit it in your oven as well. I'll come back to you in about 35 minutes. Cook's treat is the batter on the spatula. Delicious. Okay, so it's the 30-minute mark. I'm just going to check brownie, and that, actually I think it might have been 35 minutes. That is perfect. It's not hard. I've set that aside and I'll let that cool for about 20 minutes, and then I'll come back to you and I'll show you when I cut it what it looks like. Okay, so my brownie's out of the oven and I'm ready to slice it. So this half is the macadamia nut and this half is the Nutella. Cut it down the middle. I'm going to take a piece out to show you. A bit of the edge. Oh, yum. Okay, there we go. It's fudgy and it's got the yummy macadamia nuts in it. All right, let's try and get a bit of the good bit. Well, here's a good bit of the Nutella. So here's a good bit of the Nutella. The Nutella in the middle. Can you see it? Yum. Oh. All right, so you're all prepped for Easter with a super good brownie recipe. It's super easy, one bowl, a few ingredients. I think you should give it a go and enjoy.